Respected fellow practitioners and guests, in the last 2 days, we have been speaking about overcoming the 3 poisons. The 3 poisons are the major emotions that we have problems with. They are greed, anger, and ignorance. When we do not attain what we want, when our greed is not fulfilled, when we do not receive more of what we want, we give rise to the heart of anger. We do this in the mistaken belief that we ourselves are individuals, that this body is me, that I have my own ideas. The concept of I. Because I have a body, because I have ideas of thoughts, I wish to protect what I consider as mine. I wish to have more for myself. This is greed. Greed can be as small as momentarily thinking of something. Thinking that the weather is very hot. It would be very nice to have something cool to drink. That is greed. Greed can be as large, as overwhelming, as wanting to be a business person and create a large fortune, a large empire. All different degrees of greed, but all greed. When we do not get what we want, when that greed is unsatisfied, we often give way to anger. Anger arises also because we are attached to ourself, to our ideas. I know I'm right. I know if I'm right, logically, you have to be wrong. If you're wrong, I'm right. Then you need to believe, to think as I do. And when you do not, I become angry. We all do this. When people do not give in to us, we become angry. When things do not go our way, when we are criticized, when we feel others are taking advantage of us, we become angry. When others take advantage of us, what is really happening? We spoke yesterday of cause and effect, that everything that happens to us is the result of what we have thought, said, or done in a previous lifetime. If something happens to me, it is not because I am a helpless victim in all this. If somebody is giving me a difficult time, I can safely assume that I have done so in the past. And that is why I am going through this difficulty now. There's no point in becoming angry with the person who is giving me a difficult time. They may be doing so because I have done something wrong, in which case I need to be corrected so I can find my faults and fix them. But maybe I really haven't done anything wrong at this particular moment. If they are unjustly accusing me of having done something that I have not done, then they have reduced my negative karma. They have helped me. How can I become angry? How can I want to become even when somebody has just done me a kindness? If we understand What is happening when we are having difficulties? We will no longer become angry, or at least, since most of us are still unable to completely stop being angry, at the very least, once we realize we are angry, we will calm down more quickly. Often, anger arises so easily, seeming so natural to us. We do not even realize we have become angry. We just think we're having thoughts, and we're so wrapped up in the thoughts that they may go on for a while before we even realize, once again, we have given in to our anger when we promised ourselves we would not do so. As soon as we realize what has happened, we need to try very hard to diffuse the situation. Either we go off by ourselves, or we try to find another way to handle it. But what is important is that we do not give in to the anger. That we only think of how to reduce it, of how to correct this fault in the future. We can do so by trying to think of how to help the other person. Why do we become angry? Because of greed. But why does greed come about? Because of the third poison, ignorance. We were discussing the other day, after one of the talks, the difference between ignorance and stupidity, and which would be a correct translation of the Chinese term. Ignorance is to not know something. It has an air of almost innocence about it. We simply do not know. Perhaps we were not taught. Perhaps we do not believe because we are unable to believe. Ignorance is improper thoughts and viewpoints. It is not knowing the proper way to think. Often because we have not been taught, often because somebody has told us, but maybe we doubted them. Doubt is also another poison. Let me tell you a story about ignorance. A long time ago, a priest in a well-respected religion decided that since it was a very special day in his religion, he would celebrate this by sacrificing the life of a goat. He called the attendants and told them, "Go to the stables, take a goat, take it to the river, wash it, prepare it for the sacrifice. Then, when it is prepared, bring it back to me." The attendants went to do so. They took the goat. They went to the river, and they started to wash it. Suddenly, the goat started to laugh. The attendants looked at each other and asked why the goat was laughing. The goat did not answer. And then just as suddenly, the goat started to cry. They again looked at the goat and said, "Wait a minute, first you were laughing, now you're crying. Why? The goat said, "Take me to your priest. I will explain to him why." The attendants took the goat to the priest. They explained what had happened. The priest realized this was a very special goat. And he said very respectfully, "Sir Goat, why did you suddenly start to laugh? And then, just as suddenly, start to cry?" The goat said, "Many, many lifetimes ago, I was a priest in a well-respected religion. And I decided that it was a special day. And to celebrate it, I would sacrifice the life of a goat. I started to laugh because I realized, having been that priest, I had been born as a goat 499 lifetimes. This is my last lifetime as a goat. And that is why I laughed, for my debt has been paid." But then I realized, you are about to repeat my very same mistake. And you too will be born as a goat. And you too will die by having your throat slit as a sacrifice. That is why I cried. The priest said, "I will protect you. You say you died because your head was cut off. I will protect you. We will not let anything happen to you today." The goat shook his head and said, "No. You do not have anywhere near the power to counteract the force from my negative karma. I will die today. My head will be cut off." The priest called guards, more attendants, told them, "Follow the goat, protect it, do not let anything happen to it." The goat walked out of the temple grounds, walked over to a ledge that was near a hill, and started to nibble a leaf that was on a branch on a tree on that hill. As the goat raised its head to nibble that leaf, suddenly, out of nowhere, a storm blew up. There was a flash of lightning. The lightning hit a ledge. A rock was cut off. The rock hit the goat on the neck. The head of the goat was cut off. The attendants went back. But before they left, they heard a voice. They looked around, and they saw a being up in the tree that they had not seen before. And they said, "Did you laugh?" And he said, "Yes, because I have seen everything that happened, and I know why." And they said, "Please tell us." The being said, "This is the result of ignorance, of not understanding the reality of what is happening all around us. In your ignorance, because you do not know better, and the ignorance of your priest, you believe very falsely that the way to honor your God is to kill a living being. But this is wrong. To kill for any reason is wrong. When the priest heard this, he decided that he would never kill again. And he did not. And he made this story known far and wide, so all could learn the consequences of taking the life of another living being. This story is about ignorance. It is about not knowing. We are just beginning to learn about cause and effect. But do we really understand? Not yet. If we truly understood, deeply understood, we would not be doing what we are doing today. We would not be saying things that hurt others because we're careless. We would not be giving in to our anger. We would not have greed. We would not continue repeating all of the faults that we have been repeating lifetime after lifetime for innumerable eons. So when we listen to talks on the teachings, and when we are told that our every thought, word, and deed has a consequence that we will undergo in the future, we all say yes and shake our heads and agree. And while we are sitting in this room or in a similar room, we believe and we think that way because we are concentrating on this talk. But since I told you this story, and since I mentioned cause and effect, how many of us have had at least one wandering thought? Probably everybody in this room. We have already forgotten to understand. And as soon as we walk out the door, we will really forget. Master Jing Kong, our teacher, has said, if people listen to a 2-hour talk, it will be very good if they remember just 1 or 2 things. We are ignorant. We have been told. We cannot remember. We have bad habits. It is so easy to fall back into those bad habits. We try, we want to do what is good. As we are sitting here, we do not want to hurt any other person. We do not want to be angry. Any reasonable person knows they feel much better when they're happy than when they're angry. But how much of the day is spent being happy? And how much of our day is spent being angry? And by angry, I don't mean that we're standing shouting at somebody. I mean that we may be just feeling resentment, irritation. These are all degrees of anger. Hatred is a very strong degree of anger, but it is only one of the most extreme degrees. Most of us don't feel hatred. But if we are still here, if we keep being born lifetime after lifetime, then all of us do feel anger. And that can be as small as resentment, minor irritations. Why are they having a good time? Why am I working so hard? Why aren't they helping me at work? If they have free time, they could come over and volunteer to help me. Why am I the one who always has to work so hard? This is anger. When we are driving to work and somebody pulls in front of us and we become irritated, that is anger. Why did they cut in front of me? I can't win when I'm driving. If I stay too close to the person in front of me, I'm told that's dangerous. If I pull farther behind, people always cut in front of me. I'll never get to work at this rate. People always take advantage of me. This is anger. When we go to the store and we go and stand online to buy something, there are two lines. We try to consider, I'm in a hurry. I need to get home. I've got things to do. Which line is going to move more quickly? I don't know about you. I invariably pick the slower line, anywhere I am. What happens when we do this? Maybe the lines were moving at the same speed. We pick a line. Suddenly, somebody has some problem. We stand there. We tap our foot. We think, I'm going to be late. I need to get home. If this takes much longer, I'm going to be stuck in traffic. I'll be late. I won't get dinner made. I won't get something done. I'll be late for my meeting. This is anger. It is not the degree of hatred yet. But if we do not stop it now, in a future lifetime, it will be hatred. Hatred does not spring up out of nowhere. We give rise to hatred. And we were the ones who first started this cycle of resentment with this individual. Or maybe they started it. But this irritation goes back many lifetimes. One of us did something to hurt the other, unknowingly, carelessly, just not thinking. We were thinking of something else. Every lifetime we meet, because we will meet this person again. In reincarnation, we meet people many, many times. Those that we pass on the street and feel no connection with, that we never see again. We may have known before, but the conditions are not right for our knowing them again in this lifetime. Those we know now and spend more time with, we have strong affinities with. They may be good affinities, they may be bad affinities. Most of us have had the experience of meeting somebody, and instantly we feel very comfortable with them. We could sit down and talk to them for hours as if we were old friends, and we are. We have also met other people who very honestly have done absolutely nothing. They said hello and we don't like them. They didn't do anything in this lifetime. But when we have a strong feeling like this, good or bad, it is because deep within us we do remember them. They may be pleasant remembrances. They may be unpleasant. But conditions are right for that affinity to grow stronger in this lifetime. Understanding why we feel the anger. Understanding that it will grow stronger. We know we need to stop it now, but we've all heard this before. But we still become angry. We still don't even realize we're becoming irritated until we have become irritated. Changing bad habits is unbelievably difficult, but to do so is to truly cultivate. When many people begin to learn of Buddhism, they think of cultivation as sitting in a lotus position, chanting a Buddha's name, a sutra, reciting a mantra, doing breathing meditation, sitting quietly, not letting any thoughts intrude. And this is what most people initially think of as concentration, but this is only the initial stage. Concentration and true cultivation are to take what we have learned, that sense of serenity, from our cultivation of reciting, of chanting, and to go back out into the world. That's where we truly cultivate. That is where it is so difficult to cultivate. To cultivate is to think, what did I do wrong? What did I do that resulted in that person saying, doing whatever they did that irritated me? What started it now? When we are trying to understand cause and effect, we will initially try to figure out, okay, what started this? If I am having something happen to me, what might I have done in an earlier lifetime that resulted in this? We do not need to know the exact cause for the result that we are now going through. Trying to figure this out can become wandering thoughts. And we can become so wrapped up in trying to figure out what was the cause of this that we forget what we are supposed to be doing. We forget that what we are supposed to be doing is to correct the fault. We do not know or need to know the exact cause for the results that we are undergoing. We only need to understand that when we do what is good, we reap what is good. When we do something bad, something evil, we reap what is bad, what is evil. That is all we need to understand. We have said doubt is one of the poisons. We need to believe, as Buddhists, that the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, do not lie to us, do not deceive us. They only want us to awaken. But they cannot do this for us. If they could, they would have done this long, long ago. All awakened, enlightened beings, higher beings can do is teach us. They cannot change our cause and effect. They can teach us about cause and effect so that we, at some point, will really believe completely that one day we will not have any doubt in what they have said. And they have said, in essence, we are all the same. We all have the same true nature. Buddhas were ordinary beings like us. But they overcame their doubt. They believed. They trusted in what they were told. They believed that when the Buddha said, "You have the same true nature that I have. In essence, you are no different from I. In essence, we are all one, for our true nature is all one. We are all one entity." At some point, we will believe this. Until we reach that point, we need to immerse ourselves in the teachings. We need to listen to teachings, to chant a Buddha's name, to cultivate, to replace our wandering thoughts of greed, anger, resentment, irritation, ignorance, arrogance, selfishness. We need to replace all these with good, proper thoughts. thoughts of helping others. We can listen to the teachings. Unless we are able to recite, to say back word for word, and understand completely what is in even one talk, then we can listen to that talk again. Each time we listen, we will hear something a little differently. Maybe just before we listened to that talk, we turned on the tape recorder, the VCD. Maybe something had irritated us, and we thought, I need to replace this irritation with something better. I'll listen to a talk. I haven't listened to one for a few days. I know I need to listen every day. I'll listen now. When we concentrate on that talk, on listening to every single word, if we are concentrating, if our minds are very calm, we will hear something that we have not heard before, because we will understand at a more profound level. Because in our calmness, in our serenity, we have reduced our wandering thoughts just enough to allow the perfect wisdom that we already have within us to surface for just one tiny second. But in that second, we understood more clearly something that we hear on that tape. This is why we listen to teachings over and over. For those who speak English, who do not speak Chinese, cannot listen to all the hours, the thousands of hours of teachings in Chinese, cannot read the books in Chinese. We have probably all, at some point, given rise to irritation, to unhappiness, that we have so little to learn. But have we perfectly learned everything that has been translated of our teachings? Those of us who work on the translations have worked on them for some time. We have not learned them perfectly. So I will hazard a guess that those who listen, who read, have also not learned those teachings perfectly. We have enough to listen to read. Because we have not yet perfected those teachings. We have Liao Fan's 4 Lessons translated. A second edition will be out shortly. Several people have been working very hard on this for the past year, trying to improve our understanding, trying to improve our ability to express that understanding. This will be finished, hopefully, soon. and then printed. Liao Fan's 4 Lessons has an unbelievable amount of good teachings in it. It has everything we need to know. Teacher has said, for those people today, as great Patriarch Ingguang said at the beginning of the last century, people in his time, over 100 years ago, had difficulty understanding the sutras, and they were reading them in Chinese. They understood classical Chinese. Many people today who can read Chinese cannot really understand classical Chinese. And Master Ingguang, Patriarch Ingguang, the 13th Patriarch of the Pure Land School, said, read 3 books. One of them was Liao Fan's 4 Lessons. And at a time when printing was much more difficult, much more expensive than it is now, he printed over 1 million copies of the 3 books he recommended. It has been recommended that we read the book Liao Fan's 4 Lessons 300 times. We also have the commentary on it, Changing Destiny. That is what we are working on the 2nd edition of. Read Liao Fan's book to his son 300 times. As we read this seemingly very small book, very simple story, we will understand it more deeply each time. Read the commentary to understand it more deeply. Listen to the talks. We have everything we need in that book, in the commentary. Liao Fan's 4 Lessons is all about greed, anger, and ignorance. Because Mr. Liao Fan had all of these. But Mr. Liao Fan had the unbelievable good conditions to meet a good teacher. A good teacher is not necessarily the most famous, the most brilliant, the most articulate teacher. A good teacher is one who knows proper teachings and whom we have a good affinity with and can learn from. Mr. Liao Fan met his good teacher. He listened to his teacher. He very honestly answered his teacher's questions. And he paid very close attention to his teacher's answers. And he remembered everything he was taught. And he practiced those teachings from that moment on. When he left his teacher, he went to the statues of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and he prostrated to them out of respect for the teachings. Then he thought long and hard about what his faults were. He was greedy. He very often lost his temper. He was very unkind to others. He didn't think about the feelings of others. He was very arrogant. He thought of each of his faults, and as he realized each fault, he corrected it. Those of us who have tried to do this realize how exceptional this man was. He wrote his book 500 years ago. He is well known throughout China. In other countries, his books have been translated. 500 years later, he is remembered. His book is widely printed. How many people can we say this of? He was very special. What he wrote was very simple, but very true. We can learn from what he has written. How do we change? We need to practice patience and tolerance. We are patient with others. We are patient with ourselves to the degree that we understand why we are doing something wrong. But while we forgive the mistakes of others, we do not simply forgive our own mistakes. We cannot afford to say, I'm human. I've lived many lifetimes. I've made these mistakes for many lifetimes. I will try to do better, but if I cannot, I'm only human. Forgiveness is for others. Courage, determination is for ourselves. We cannot expect that we will change overnight, but we can expect to make regular, daily improvement. If we are correcting mistakes daily, then in 3 years we will have made wonderful progress in our cultivation. But if we are only correcting one fault every few weeks and feeling very good about this, we are really falling back, because we are not correcting our faults quickly enough. We need to be correcting them daily. Mr. Liao Fan had pledged to do 3,000 virtuous deeds. It took he and his wife 10 years to do this. The second 3,000 deeds they accomplished in 4 years. So he too had difficulty finding, correcting his faults. What happens to us today has been destined by what we have done in our past lives. We have to do great goodness, great evil, to change what is destined to happen in this lifetime. And that is what Mr. Liao Fan did. He accomplished great goodness. Not only did he start to change his destiny in his current life, within 1 year of learning how to correct his faults, he started to change his destiny. A very rare individual. He met a good teacher that he had a strong affinity with. But if we are all sitting in this room listening to these teachings, then we too have met a good teacher. We too have good conditions, good affinities. We too can learn. We can change ourselves in an instant. It all comes from within. Everything we need is already within us. We only need to stop thinking of ourselves, to think of all others, to give up any thoughts of selfishness, to realize that we are all one. When we do this, when we change from within, from the heart, from the mind, we will think as Buddhas do. And in that instant, we are a Buddha. We carry that thought with us. We enlarge that thought till it is our only thought. We cultivate the teachings, we practice, we listen to our teacher. If we do this with absolute sincerity, then our every request will receive an answer. And we too will awaken. We too will become enlightened. We too will uncover our perfect compassion and wisdom. Thank you. Let us read the dedication of merit together. May the merits and virtues accrued from this work adorn the Buddha's Pure Land, repaying the 4 kinds of kindness above, and relieving the suffering of those in the 3 paths below. May those who see and hear of this all bring forth the heart of understanding and live the teachings for the rest of this life. Then be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. Homage to Buddha, Amitabha.